Hi, good morning. Vanakkam, namaste, my dear teaching fraternity and my dear students. And most importantly, the parents. And this topic is related to all the adults across the globe where everybody is trying to ensure that the teacher's learning goes on and children are engaged in a very meaningful way. So that is the only with one focus with everybody, every teacher, every adult, every parent across the globe. So here when I start with the slide, the teacher, when I mean that the teacher means here, the teacher in everybody, every parent, every mother, every father, whoever is engaging the child at home is a teacher. So that is the reason I'm starting my presentation with this, the role and expectation of the teacher. The teachers, we have to see, it is a very, very huge responsibility, all of us know. So teaching is the profession that teaches all of the other professions. The author is unknown, but it's such a beautiful quote, my favorite quote. So as a teacher for lifetime, I feel very, very proud to say that I'm a teacher for lifetime. And I am sure everybody must feel so. Why? Because to teach is to touch lives forever. There is also a saying that to teach is twice learning. So the double two. To teach is to twice learning. So that means your learning becomes concrete. So also to teach is to touch lives forever. Such a beautiful quote. Then in that case, what is the role of a teacher? Is it easy? Is it only saying something blah, 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 whatever you know, sharing? No. Definitely no, because it has multiple roles for a teacher. The teacher is sometimes just a participant, sometimes an assessor, sometimes a promoter, and then a resource person, a tutor, observer, controller, and finally an organizer. So it is a multiple task combined together becomes a successful teacher. So then with this brief introduction about a teacher, I am presenting this and for the universally for all adults who are caring and nurturing their children. That is the reason I have just started with a big pranam to the teaching fraternity. As I again repeatedly say that when I mean teacher, I mean the mother, the father, and the adult, whoever is caring the child at home. So now I don't want to go into the introduction because we all know that today, due to COVID-19, online learning has become a new reality for schools, for across the world, for many professions, not just for the schools. But I'm focusing only on school education. So schools in India have been working hard in creating a comprehensive online infrastructure for the effective remote learning of their students. So what are they doing? They say that here I'm saying that it is there. So then what is that happening? How are they able to cope up with this online learning? So let us focus on that. So before I start this topic on online learning, the good and bad side of it, or the online versus real-time classroom education and all, now it's time for me to introduce myself. I'm Dr. J.A. Vani Sharma, founder, principal, and academic director of Tapovan School and Bangalore. So with this, my over 35 years of experience in teaching and administration of schools, so I thought let me use my free time to share the issues that are related to education with everybody across the globe. So this is my sincere attempt to encourage parents and others who are thinking that it is a burden. So that is the whole intention. So here, what is the online, how it started? Now almost we are hopefully with the vaccine that is coming, and we are in the month of December, and the hopes of vaccine coming is there. End of 2020, a very, very memorable, difficult year for all those who are existing now. It's coming to an end of this thing, but we already got used to, not like initial days, we got used to what to do with online teaching. So I don't want to go much in depth. That is about how to teach remotely. And we were all discussing, debating, trying out like examples of Hangouts, Meet, Zoom, Classroom, Google Classroom, and all those things. How to communicate with learners in real time, and how to share with learners a variety of resources in different film formats, file formats, how to give assignments, how to make importantly collaborative work. So all these things were how to give them conducting tests, assignments, report cards. These were all the big question marks in the minds of everybody. And challenges in the, okay, after doing some research and finding out and taking the help of edutech companies and knowing how to handle these, then we had the problems, further problem. Then again the deep discussion as to what is the ideal time for classroom duration, and how do we teach the training teachers, students, parents using these digital tools. And then how do we implement these active learning strategies? Then how do we know and ensure that online safety and privacy of the child? These were all, I can say, the challenges we faced around the month of June. I can say that in some schools, we personally in our schools and all, we were getting ready by March, April itself, the moment the schools opened. So comfortably, we could settle early. So I can say that these are all the past, but I'm just going one after the other so that from there, how much we have moved down and what will be the future. This is what is the presentation. Then about the parents' expectations and academic pressure, a major cause of stress among students. See, by then, many parents did not accept online learning at all. They said that how is it possible? When a teacher is not there, a classroom is not there, peer group is not there, how can you call it a teaching? How will a child understand? How will a child know to go through it? These were all the pressures. At the same time, children were becoming restless. It was becoming difficult to control the children in the house. So there were almost mental health and imbalance between the two working parents in the house, and then between the children and the parents, adults, grandparents, and the working parents. All these issues started growing up within the family, and initial days, mental health also started worrying about everything. And parents' expectations and academic pressure was a major cause of stress among students, because we know it. Being on the other side, we know that is the reason most of the good schools, committed schools, there was only one focus. We have to ensure that the children are emotionally stress free and meaningful learning is taking place. Some engagement, meaningful engagement is taking place. That was the focus, not to really make it. We never call it a equivalent to classroom education. But something is better over nothing. When you are in the ocean or the sea, you are a river, if you don't know to swim, you will only collapse. You will drown. Rather, we somehow look for alternative methods, learn to swim over, and then reach the riverbed. That is a concept. Not that that is the ultimate solution. That was the only thing that was working in every educationist mind. So they started being an educationist, started motivating, convincing parents with again their virtual meetings, because there was no contact, with the virtual meetings and with loads of communication through WhatsApp, SMS, internet, virtual meetings. Then somehow slowly parents started convincing, and by then the government also realized that we have to accept the new norm. That is how, I don't say all the schools, but some of the urban schools where there is a facility started moving on to online learning. But this is not the one. We have to have it. It's a global issue. It is not one city, one village, one state like that. It is a global issue. So, as per UNESCO reports, COVID-19's staggering impact on global education is astonishing. So, the number of learners impacted by national school closures worldwide. everywhere, almost even now, most of these rural state board schools, government schools across the India, there is no question of online learning at all. They only tried their best through recorded videos and then sharing of TV channels like that. But that is a passive learning. Only self-motivated children with some motivating pressure, parents will try to go through the videos and understand. There was a beautiful effort by even the Karnataka state government to create some video and then YouTube channels and then TV channels and all. Everybody made an effort. I don't deny at all. But nobody will know, there is no measure of it. Absolutely, there is no measure. That is the problem. How many of them are seeing, how many of them are not seeing, either how much of learning impact is there with the videos, nobody knows. So this is what is a 1.38 billion by just end of March is the staggering number of students, pre-primary, primary, lower secondary and upper secondary levels of education, but hardly any one of them were in the scene of learning either through schooling or through online or video or anything. So that means if nothing happened during this year, this many students would have been at with zero learning. Forget about zero learning, it's not an issue. But what will be the impact on their mental health? The idle brain is a devil's restaurant, we all know it. The same that much of idling time without stepping out, with always being within the family limits and trying to become attention diversion and then mischief mongering. So the same gadgets that we are using for online learning, they would have put pressure on parents to take away from them and use for playing, using internet games and other things. So that was the fear among the educationists. Then some, as I said, started taking it seriously, and then the thought of accepting e-learning came. So, but is it a substitute for classroom learning? I don't know. Let's see what is the advantage of e-learning and what are the disadvantages of, again, online learning. Because everything will have its pros and cons. So it all in the people, the receptors who take it how. Some may take it all positive things from all sides. Some may only crib about the negative things. It is goes by the attitude of the people who are at the receiving end. See, let us see whether it is a proper substitute or not. So this is one slide on online versus with the traditional learning. So how it is different? Naturally, a teacher, we can say that on the video, children, some will on the video, some will escape, they don't know on the video. But even if they are on the video, we do not know whether they are passive listeners or they are listening carefully. So the question and answer interaction is a must. Every time calling the student by name and then asking them to answer. So that is, this will not happen in this one. So here there is no face to face. In video, zero. At least in online, there is some face to face opportunity. In interaction with other students or instructor required, it is possible. We can always unmute and then we can always have a discussion. That is not a problem, but it is a different style. Then web access is a requirement. That is one side. But if once in this present situation, India is the web access is the easiest and the cheapest in the world. So we have to accept that that is some investment in learning. See, if we are traveling to a school, that also costs something. So people don't take that as a expense. But the moment it is web access and spending on data and internet, people will crib because it's a new mode. But same thing, double of it, they may be spending on transport, but they will not consider that. That is the mindset, issue of mindset. So this is a web access, internet and data, all these are essential and some investment is there for good education. Then it is also the feedback is provided through a technology based tools. That is either blogging or web based tools like WebEx, email, or nowadays WhatsApp or handheld device through notifications, online, SMS, all people are very successfully using it. Undeniably, all modes of communication are being used, and thankfully, everything has settled now. Then, what is common between the two? The teachers are the same, quality among the teachers is the same, and lessons and engaging lesson plans, planning, structured works, objectives, and standards is the same, because the same learned people only are taking the same qualified teachers only are taking with passion. So they also have settled. And then timely feedback from instructions is happening, assessments is possible, then evaluation is possible, then digital report cards is possible. So everything is going on. Timely feedback also is going to the parents. And naturally, all these things have already have taken some good shape, and schools are moving ahead with the online teaching. What is the advantage of traditional? There is no necessary for web access. Just four walls and a classroom is enough, and a blackboard is enough. Then all teaching experiences and learning are face-to-face interaction in the classroom setting. So the teacher can immediately catch a backbencher who is a non-listener or a window watcher, and then they can take the attention immediately. They can catch their attention. So that advantage undeniably is not there. So this is the drawback and the difference between online and this one. And similarly, in assignments, guidance, and all instructions will be giving in the class. Assessments again and again, repeated corrections and other things is possible. And submitting also with the handwritten submitting is there. No need of digital requirement. So basically, all the good essential parts of teaching learning are the same between the two. Here, if it is we are moving and gripping about digital internet and continuously getting exposed to bright light and then small smartphones and all, undeniably that is something we are helpless. So that is the reason staggered timetables are given, sufficient breaks are given. So certain things are taken care of by the organizers at the school. So with all in this scenario, just imagine, suppose this entire academic year, we are in 2020 December, so this video is done during this time. So naturally, we have another 3-4 months to go in India. Academic year closes by March 30th in Karnataka. Some places April. Of course, I'm not talking about Jan to December. So in this scenario, the question mark is whether at least, hopefully, whether the next academic year will be right or wrong. I mean, that is a regular classroom. Again, will it go extend to the next academic year? Then what about the board exams that are going to come? These are the question marks in the minds of the people. So what will be the survival of education sector? What will be the survival of the learning process among the children? So this is what are the question marks at this point of time. So it's time to, is right for a paradigm shift in the education sector. This is what my entire focus is on. So now we are in a midway. We have seen conventional classroom teaching. We have also seen and experienced to some extent online teaching. So with this, now we have to think whether is the time right for a paradigm shift in education sector. What will be the survival of education sector in this scenario, or what will be the status of learning process among the younger kids, preschoolers. NEP 2020 says right from 3 years to 18 years, that is up to 12th grade, all will come under the school scenario, and then without even basics of alphabets, almost now preschools are closed. So when without even the basic hold on alphabetical and words and simple number work, when they start straight away in the first standard, what will be their status? How do they go about? What will be the lacuna? This is the question mark for the future. So let us think of that also. So as long as the schools are able to do weekly, monthly and quarterly students assessments and tests going on online, even digital report cards are going to the parents, and parents are also having a acceptance of the virtual setup and giving the standing like pillars to the children's education. This academic year is going off smoothly, without much, but it is okay, better than nothing, I can say. So that then they can even keep track of their child academic progress through e-connect apps launched by schools. So this is how we are in the present state. Whenever I say we are in this state, I may not say that all the schools across the globe or across the country or across even Karnataka. Few fortunate schools and the parents and the children are at this stage. So parent-teacher meetings are now held virtually and see enthusiastic response. In my virtual meetings with the parents also, most of my primary and pre-primary parents said, ma'am, please continue full year like this. We are very, very happy with the e-learning. So child health is more important than other things. So please continue, because everything is going on hurdle free. So this is the feedback I got from my parents. Doesn't mean that it is a universal phenomena. So there will be difference of opinion. We have to accept the difference of opinion, and we will move on and ensure that every child across the globe, nook and corner, gets the same benefit as some few elite, I wouldn't like to say elite, some few technologically comfortable schools and the children and the parents. This is my, as an educationist, my personal desire. So let's say in this is not, cannot be done by one person. It has to be so many, it should be a coordinated effort by everybody. So that's what no individual can do. So the government has to come into picture. So what will be the role of the government in supporting e-learning? Without the government policies, without the government's investment, without the government's agreement with the new norm, that yes, it is also a type of learning, so parents must pay the fees, and then they should support the schools so that the teachers also get the salaries and they will be able to continue. This was the biggest hurdle in Karnataka, because initially the government did not accept online learning. So the schools were ready, teachers were trained, everything was ready, but I had to wait for the government's approval. So finally, with the intervention of the High Court, thankfully by June, everything settled and acceptance has come by July. So some norms were set for how it should be for pre-primary, how it should be for primary, and how it should be for high school. So it moved on. So online education has been a new way for students to learn outside of the classroom. We don't, across the world, I'm again and again saying. So with the current situation globally, many schools and universities are closed, forcing students to make use of e-learning platforms. The government plays an important role in finding and supporting this form of e-learning. Policies have been created that help shape education, providing resources and promoting e-learning. So after some debates and counter debates, we are in this state. Now, what is the role of government? This is what, at least they should be visionary. Though the talk of vaccines is coming, talk of opening schools and colleges in the next 2021, at least for board exam children and colleges and PU colleges and all, still whatsoever it is, they are not they reach that stage only, it starts from pre-primary. So it should be a major visionary step for the government to decide much before the next academic year. So this is an alarming thing. Unless these policies from national level, MHRD to boards to states, education is a state subject. So finally the big role is the state governments. So now let's see what are the 5 major ways this government can help the education continue. I am doing this one 3 months before the next academic year. That is, we are in December. So Jan, February, March, somehow we may finish off the board exams, or April, May, doesn't matter. But we should get ready for the next academic year. So that with so many committees, processing, decisions, funding, we know how much of protocols, and then this will be there before taking every decision. So that is the reason it's very, very important for the government to act on all these things. So e-learning needs a policy boost from the government. Without government's intervention and policy boost, no individual school can take any major decision. So it is time for them to plan and act. Then they have to adopt policies of different countries for e-learning. See, our own neighboring states have also some have closed, some have opened, some where our Karnataka government tried, and then again had to withdraw from some of the programs. So all these things in the particularly this in COVID situation, uncertainty is so much. So everybody every time is doing plan A, plan B, plan C for even the board exams. Plan A means regular opening the having a regular exams. Plan B is again like schools are doing online exam. Plan C is again online only with open book exam. All debates are going on, but uncertainty is there. So we have to study the other countries during pandemic, which are the stories of success. Our neighboring states, our countries, all the states, then across the globe, then the success stories have to be taken and then carefully, slowly, under monitoring and supervision has to be done. So it requires a lot of collaborative work. Then third point, to formally allow schools to tie up with edutech companies for e-learning. This is another very, very, very important factor according to me. See what happens, all the teachers may be trained with either DED or an NTT or a BEd or without a passion. All of them, only those who have got a passion and love teaching only will take up the teaching profession because it is not monetarily very attractive profession. It is compared to the same double graduates, postgraduates who earn 3 times more in other companies are still opting for teaching profession because they have somewhere passion and liking for teaching profession. Qualification wise, they are much more than others, but still they are prepared for the low earning and think that it is a service to the society or I like it, so I am with it. Acceptance for a low cost, low income. So in this scenario, all teachers are not well versed with using the technology. So here comes the role of edutech companies, and they are completely well versed. They prepare the back end requirement for the teachers to use. So with the support of edutech companies, when there is a tie-up between the schools and the companies, so with their training and with their support and back-end requirements like assessments, examining worksheets, and then daily lesson plans, whatever is, everything that is a back-end work of a teacher will be taken care of by the edutech companies, like e-digital report cards, all these things. So that acceptance must come. So naturally, the schools have to invest further on that also. Whatever the fees is there, it will become a further to bigger chunk will go towards the edutech companies because they don't come free of cost. For them, there is nothing like RT or nothing like free or nothing like soft corner. For them, everything per head charge. So naturally, the school should get ready to pay some amount for these edutech companies and to benefit out of their expertise in this supporting the back-end support for the teachers. So that also acceptance must come. Then the task force needed to frame guidelines to formalize approach. So definitely it is not just that it is going on, but policymakers rolling out these guidelines should comprise of government agencies, edutech solution providers, school management services, academicians, education boards, and edupreneurs. All of them, that's what I said, it's a collaborative discussion, debating, monitoring. So the task force must contain from everybody. And then finally it comes to the bottom most. Everybody may think big and then think tank may do this, do that. But at the end, it is the teacher of a classroom who will be the final person who will be using it for directly with the child. So they should be, it should enable a teacher to be comfortable with all this edu-learning. So e-learning tools, whatever is coming, the teacher should get comfortable. and the parent on the other side. That is still more difficult. It is easy to teach teachers, but not so easy to teach parents. So in the process, how do we teach the parents? All parents are not tech savvy. I know the housewives who never even used a smartphone are struggling hard with sincerely and then trying to learn along with their child. The learning process is happening between a child of even a 5 6 year old, the parent, homemaker, and also a teacher. So there are two adults and one child. Three of them are learning the same tools, the same technology together at the same time. And very interestingly, it is the child who is getting up faster than the two adults on either side. It's a true story. It's a true story. Even a first standard child is able to scan the images, assessments, and everything, and then send it to the teachers. And they are able to mute, unmute, and they know how to do everything, all changes. They are sitting and owning the Google everything enthusiastically. So I have a witness about the children becoming smarter than the adult. Then, of course, there is other issues of internet and other things. So this task force must contain everybody, who all are the stakeholders of this issue. It is not that somebody dictating terms and then you do this, you don't do that. That's not correct. So this is also an important step by the government, which they already are in the process. Then the fifth thing is integrated public-private partnership approach aided by telecom sector. I am sure without this, nothing can happen. Because instead of struggling with the old traditional methods, we have lost a lot of time, I can say, without a proper vision, or maybe it because of uncertainty. I can say that probably because of uncertainty. When will the COVID-19? Nobody knew, because lockdowns, nobody knew what is going to be tomorrow's situation. That could be the reason for not able to be being a visionary and then taking long-term steps. But even now it is not late. I say even now it is not late. Let us not think that, oh, it's all over now. It will be next year will be very, I wish and pray that it is very smooth sailing. But there is nothing wrong in being extraordinarily cautious about what will be the future. And then use these 3 4 months that left over to stabilizing meaningfully, to facilitate nook and corner of India, and nook and corner every child who deserves learning. Not deserve, every child requires learning. That is what it is a must. Already we have got RTA, right to education. So when the right to education is already there, and then the children are deprived of education, how pathetic and how unfortunate situation it is. So what is the next step? We have already corporate funding and then donating and all those things are there already. So this 1 year, had the government taken a drastic step to say that stop all other programs, your entire funding must go for at least a minimum of a smartphone and with internet. If this step has taken place early days, I am sure every child in every corner of the city, of the country would have got proper education by now. But that never happened. That did not happen at all. Only few NGOs have come forward with giving some tabs and some smartphones. Very few. That will not match the population of children that need learning. So even now, I feel that it should be a very, very major decision that with the collaboration of the telecom sector, the government should make it a policy that this year they will ensure that every village, every child gets at least a minimum of a smartphone and with the internet connection and then with the sufficient data. So this is what is the next essential decision that is most important, I would say, that has to be focused. Because without that, nothing can be done. E-learning cannot take place at all. I'm not asking for any big thing. It's almost need of the hour. In India, every nook and corner, every villager, even a street vendor is using a mobile. But the mobiles that they are having a low income group, it needed for the parent. So they are not ready to share it for the child's education. That is the unfortunate situation. So child needs to become independent. Of course, I'm not getting into the negative factor of it, because the parents' responsibility to ensure that they use it only for meaningful learning and not for any other mischief. So that is side apart. My video is not on that, so I'm not getting into that aspect. So now, after this government's intervention and the policies, everything hopefully comes into picture. Even if suppose the schools reopen normally, and it is the happiest and most desirable situation for the next academic year. But just because that started, will the online learning, digital learning or e-learning will fade away? I don't think so. It shouldn't also rather. I would always prefer blended learning. We as positive people should take the best of everything. So there are good things about technology and e-learning, and there are, of course, certainly the most of the good thing like peer-to-peer relationship and then friendship and masti that children want at that age, and of course physical activities undeniably, play, the sports, games, all that is essential part that will not come with this. So let us, I'm not keeping aside that what all are the negative of online learning, and we whatever is not possible with this, let us use it and make it let it get from the regular schooling. Now that the parents have realized the value of parent teachers, and the teachers also would have realized the value of parents because they are putting in an effort. So at least now they should say that hand in hand, we should together as two hands work with the child and ensure that instead of having a blame game that, oh, mother is like, parents are not supporting, parents will say teachers are not good. So let's keep all that aside, and then realizing the value of on both the sides, let us as two hands become a helping hand for the learners, that is the children. So what is this blending learning? Online learning is required because there are personalized one-to-one tutoring also. So that may help online, because after school hours, many parents think that the children must go for and again one more. I know some parents who want the children to be engaged so that they become free. So immediately we feel very, very sad about it, but helpless because it is all parents' decision. Right from the 5 o'clock that they reach the school home, till 9 o'clock children are engaged with only tuitions. Then they come home and then they start some time with the sleepy mood from homework. Then morning they get up again, they go for one more tuition also in the morning. It's really, really torturing for the child. And the students who summoned so many times, they cried with me saying that they are unable to do because of this routine of the child. So many times I had to call the parents and ask them to stop this tutoring outside. So whatsoever it is, sometimes if the schools are also having overcrowded children, 50, 60, teachers not having unable to focus on individual child. So whatever may be the reason, both are happening. So now that is the reason within the home only, they can have a personalized online tutoring. That is one advantage. Then teacher-led small group instructions, if not one-to-one, if it is expensive, minimum 3, 4 like that, it is possible. And so apart from that, assessments are easy, and collaboration also is easy. So some advantages are there, and then saving the whatever is there. For example, now my this presentation, I can save it for any long. If I had used the same thing using a blackboard in a conventional method, I just can't reuse it all. It is one time used and lost. Whereas because of the technology, I will be able to repeatedly use it as and when it is required for a presentation. So similarly, the lesson plans, assessments, and whatever the activities, quiz modes, quizzes, all these things can be saved by the teachers and then repeatedly can be used. So a lot of teachers' time will be saved. So that is the advantage of a technology. And so naturally, whenever we need face-to-face, we want the physical activities, some classes and all, explanation and all, practicals particularly, science practicals, tech practicals, computer programming, all these things, school is essential part of it. So we are not saying that it is not required. And examination also is always better through the schooling, because in online examination, we do not know how many of them are copying, how many of them are self-motivated and genuine. So we request always the parents to become truly invigilators and ensure that children are not copying. But these children are extra smart. Honestly, I tell you, they cheat the parents also. The same time they use the two devices, they use they do the Google search and then they look for the answers, and then they have become so smart that they do ditto to ditto copy work. But as smart teachers, we know who is doing what. But present scenario, that is one thing we are unable to control. So we have to find out the methods of how to control that also, because it requires lot of parental support for that, because parental education also comes into picture. So anyhow, that is why I feel that examination aspect, certain things we must have face-to-face classroom traditional method only. So then global connections and extraordinary information beyond the textbook, beyond the classroom. And if a child is passionate, if a child is extra smart and getting bored of with his regular classroom syllabus, he wants to learn further, this is the best way. Online is the best way. There is no end. It's an ocean of learning. So the child who is self-motivated and have an urge to learn, there is no limit, no limit for learning. So that is the reason blended learning, I'm sure, is going to stay, and that should be the best way for both the teachers, parents, and the students. So that makes it the learning will, maybe it will take to a next higher step. So maybe those passionate about inquisitive children who are extraordinary in mathematics or extraordinary in science or extraordinary in linguistics may turn out to become really noble laureates, because that is one lacuna in India. We have such a rote memory based learning, and it is not going beyond the syllabus and the textbook. There is no creativity, there is no I can say that hardly any application questions or challenging questions. So naturally, it is in education is not in the right mode now. So with this, if this happens like a revolution, a change for a good is coming, we have to thank COVID-19, honestly. Because those children who are passionate, inquisitive, like how are the so many school dropouts are becoming CEOs of big companies? It is because their individual passion. It is because they are interested in learning. They have worked on their own. They were the self-tutors with the help of the internet and support. So such students may turn up now. Such intellectuals who are passionate and driven by their learning enthusiasm may go beyond the textbook, beyond the examination mode, and then definitely may excel. And then some, hopefully, I wish that at least this generation 2020 batches will, few of them at least turn out to be, we have to wait and watch, some noble ladders. I know it's a big dream. I wish it will happen one day. So this is the blended learning is that. With the blended learning also, if you open the schools now, at least for the board exams in January, as the talk is going on, what are the care that the schools and colleges must take? Of course, already we all are used to social distancing and the seating plan where the schools are having massive strength. They have to do the either staggered timings, like morning one session, afternoon one session, evening one session. I don't know. Each individual schools, institutions, colleges must plan their new seating plan and new timetable. Of course, mass and then penalties and all as it has come already. Hand sanitizing, all these are already we got used to, thankfully. Then indoor games, they are saying fewer. Our assemblies are no, it's impossible to control the children. So I rather for some more time till the vaccination comes, and games and assemblies should be prevented strictly. Whatever is we say, the child is a child. The child in him already for crushed for so long, and they like coming out of a jail. They come out and then they try to be uncontrollable for some time. That uncontrollable period itself is enough for any spreading. So I feel that personally, it should be definitely no indoor or outdoor or assemblies for some time. Of course, good ventilation in classrooms and building is mandatory by laws for giving granting permissions to schools. But if they don't have it, then it is we have to ensure that sanitation is very good. And similarly, transportation, and definitely with the, I don't know whether how many schools will risk transportation. It has to be, space must be more in the school transport system. Otherwise, it is better the parents take the responsibility. Then drinking water and hygienic standards and all those are anyhow essential anytime. Not only now, they are essential all the time. And of course, staggered hours in teaching schedule. If the strength is more, if the space is limited, so naturally they should go for staggered planning of the classrooms. So this is what is the future for January in case the schools are opening on Jan 4th, 2021 for board exam children. So this is what today on 5th of December, this is what is the situation. So I always love this slide. You are called to make a difference. Yes, you means everybody. And may our teaching profession continue to inspire millions. So what does this? When I say teaching profession, I believe that every human, there is a teacher. Every profession has their own teaching. Even without a regular schooling also, even from a family who is learning, either a blacksmith or a goldsmith or a barber or a tailor, if they are learning from their parent also, the parent becomes a teacher. So naturally in the house also, every mother is the first teacher, and a conventional guru in the classroom is always a second position. Even as a mother or a father also, the classroom teacher has a second position. So with the due respect to all the parents across and all the gurus, all the whoever you have a concern for the learning process to continue on this earth, in the universe, like all the birds, animals, everybody takes care. Why not we humans with little intellect that we have got survive, and not just survive, to think smart and then sustain and then even excel. That is what is my, you explore and then excel, accept the new norm and move on. With this, I would like to end this session, and thank you so much. There are so many points that I have not covered because I did not want to deviate, because each slide has a different point of view. So that is not in this. This is only, my focus is only on online teaching versus conventional teaching. So many points I would have missed, I know, but because of the time constraint, I was not deviating from anything. So once again, thank you for my giving me opportunity to do this, use this platform, Zoom, for the purpose of Inner Wheel Club of Bangalore, who have asked me to do this program, and also for my family, my niece Jayashree, and everybody, whoever, and my friends from Inner Wheel Club of Bangalore, everybody. I really thankful for giving me in igniting this into my mind to do this presentation. Once again, a big thank you.